country in terms of change that needs to happen. We have got a 22 years or so experience in government. We be able to review the policies in a manner that will cause the change. And then I just want to say that there's also the issues about consultative conference. The reason we would want to have it earlier, it's because we believe that the intervention on processes leading to the policy conference and the elective conference are critical. Because what happens at that conference will determine the direction the African National Congress will be taking beyond that, and that's critical. So there will be a parallel process of leading to the National Consultative Conference, and also loading some of the policy issues like constitutional issues, like the manner in which leaders are elected, both in government and in the party, elective systems, electoral laws, the constitution. There are issues that might need to change. And if you want to do that, you're going to have to run a two-track operation leading to the National Consultative Conference and feeding into the policy processes. Those of you who know that the policy processes are very complicated. It's branch, region, province, national executive. It goes back again to the branch. It goes back to the national executive. By the time you go to June, a branch would have seen a policy twice. And by the time you go to a conference, a branch would have seen again a policy about 2 times. So it's quite a complex issue. You don't raise a policy issue by August. You are too late by then. So we'll raise some of the policy issues now if we need to influence the processes of change. So that's the program that the veteran stalwarts have committed themselves, and there's this younger generation which we are consulting with, which is very energetic and will be able to assist us in meeting our objectives. Thank you.
Thank you, Commander.
I think one of the important things that comes out from the presentation by Reverend
No. No.
My apologies. I think the presentation just given now really speaks to 2 key issues. The need to emphasize out there the sense of urgency, not just for the party, but it's also for the country as well. I don't need to school you on the issues and the challenges that the country is facing and why the importance of an ANC that functions well is very important for ensuring that that sense of urgency is not lost in addressing the issues and the needs that people have. But there's also agency. It's about having a sense of agency as veterans and stalwarts, but imparting that sense also to the various elements and sectors that we'll be talking to, because we are aware, and it's been very clear to us, that there's many more South Africans, and especially those who are associated with the ANC, who have expressed the strong feeling that they want and desire to be part of finding the solution to the challenges that the ANC is facing. And we have presented ourselves to be an agent for creating that vehicle and that space for them to be able to do so. And in that sense, I think we hope to be in keeping with the theme of the General A statement, to be contributors in a positive way, to that resolution of this, what seems intractable, but which we believe, with commitment and clear focus on what the priorities are, needs to be done. It all seems rather compressed now because we have to work to the calendar that the ANC has for the year, because this calendar is also directly linked to the overall national calendar associated with elections and etc. that must come. So we then are getting into the system to work with the system to bring about those key elements that would ensure that we enable the process of introspection and change that we so desire. Thank you.
Do you want to add something else?
No, that's stuff.
I think I should come and sit with you guys here.
Please do.
I feel like I'm a veteran as well.
No, I did promise that I will come back to the Veterans League issue, and I didn't come back to it. In our interaction with the working committee, we committed ourselves, because the Veterans League is really not functional, especially at the national level. It exists in some regions and some provinces. We thought, because it's critical to have the veterans, if Paul was here, I will say read the Constitution, the section. I'm sure you can get it, because I think it's very critical about its role, and it's not functional. So we've decided to prioritize a meeting with the leadership of those who are still there, of the Veterans League, to assist them to reorganize it and make sure that it is functional countrywide and it plays the role that it is supposed to be playing. You will see from the January 8th statement what it said about the veterans. I mean, it's a bank of wisdom amongst people who have been long in the struggle and in government, some of them. Amongst us, there are people who have been involved for 60 years amongst us. Lots of experience, but it's not being used. And would like to make sure that that experience is used. So we're going to prioritize the Veterans League. We haven't said anything about the MK veterans who met in December, and some of them are part of us. And we're going to make sure that that area as well is taken care of.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I take questions? Can I ask you to introduce yourself? Can we take 5 questions and then get the table to answer? So we've got, we start at this side and then come to that side. Ranjini, I've seen your hand. So, okay, so 1, 2, anybody else on the side? Only 2, and then 3, Ranjini on that side. Okay, ma'am.
Genevieve Prinzel from Business Day. I actually have 2 questions. On the January 8th statement, do you believe that the statement is strong enough in regards to the organisation and the state that the ANC is in? I read some of them saying it's supposed to be the state of a party and not a state of a nation. Were they strong enough on issues pertaining to the party and the weaknesses that the party is facing at the moment? You were saying at the consultative conference, you obviously wanted earlier than the policy conference. Would you want to have it before provinces go to their PGCs, before succession is discussed, before provinces start announcing on who they want to lead the party? Obviously, because one of the issues is what kind of person should be leading, or what kind of leadership does the party need? And then also, is it too early? We've had now the last 2 days this issue on succession, ANC Women's League coming out and endorsing the AU chair. We had Kasata come out with the DP. Do you think it's too early for structures to be making such endorsements?
So it's 3 questions.
3 questions.
Okay, all right.
Which were said to be 2.
From ENCA. 2 questions. One is linked to the question asked by my colleague. The ANC seems to be making a concession that the first 2 days of the policy conference will almost work as a consultative conference, which is what you are asking for. So I just want your attitude towards that. Is that concession acceptable in light of what you said is a sense of urgency that needs to be there? And then my second question, what is your sense, is there political will from what you are seeing to, I know you're happy that you're now at least being listened to, but is there political will, especially when you from time to time hear President Jacob Zuma speaking out against you guys and saying that you see yourselves as being above party structures, yet you see the ANC coming out with a different light. Who do you believe then when you're hearing different voices speaking for the same party?
Thank you. Ranjani?
Good afternoon. I'm Ranjani Nsami from the Daily Maverick. I have 3 questions. One is in response to what Reverend Shikani said. He said that there might be a need to change the process in which leaders are elected. Can you please expand on that? What ideas are there, or what in particular do you think needs to be changed? The second question is, your intervention comes in a year when there is to be leadership elections in the ANC, and therefore some of your actions may in itself be perceived to be factional. And how, in your method of engagement, how do you prevent that from happening, that your intervention is seen to be serving factional interests? And thirdly, what is the end goal of this initiative? In that, how at the end of this process do we measure the success or otherwise of this intervention of this violence? Thank you.
Okay, Sydney, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, sure. Sorry. Starting with the question
to jump up and down.
The question about the January 8th statement, is it strong enough? It's not really our place here to sit as the task team and say it's weak, it's strong. What we have seen is that it foregrounds a lot of issues which we know to be issues of concern to us, to the generality of the membership of the ANC. And to that extent, they will come in handy to serve as the hallmark of the focus of this process of consultation internally. But really, it's up to the membership finally to be the final arbiter. What do they want to do about these issues which have been raised? So I'm saying but what is critical to us is that an important tone has been set, at least, to say, do this as a united collective of members of the ANC. We are hoping that it will go a long way even towards addressing the issues you are raising of factionalism and so on. And perhaps it will begin to temper this frenzy about who should be president and so on, because people need to be made to realize that there is more at stake than just deciding who should be the president of this organization. As we were saying, we took up the cudgels on behalf of an ANC we know, an ANC which brought us up on the basis of certain principles and values from which we have witnessed over a period of time a deviation. Those are issues that are more important than auditioning for leadership. So that's where we are putting more emphasis than talking about leadership. It is possible that some people might see a specter of factionalism even where it does not exist. But we are hoping that the focus on issues and the depersonalization of issues will help people realize that there are more important things, as I say, than coming to ANC events and processes with the single-minded objective of voting.
Oh, right, once again.
Well, let me start by reading section 7.7 of the Constitution. I wanted, yeah, verse 25, yeah. No, you know that a veteran must be 60 years old and must have served for 40 years unbroken service. That's the definition of a veteran in the Constitution. But that's not what I want to read. It's the objective for me, which indicates the absence of that body in terms of its role weakens the organization. And if it was there, it shouldn't be. It says its objectives are to ensure that veterans make a full and rich contribution to the work of the ANC, to the movement, and to the life of the nation. So it is also about the nation, and it goes on to talk about how it functions. And so that's why I would like to make sure that the veterans are organized. We don't want a situation where Mashope is expected to make a trip to the Tule House to go and register as a veteran. When they turn 60, 40, the branches will assist them to make sure they are in the structure and they are making the contribution they should make. They are not used for other factional interests, because that's what has happened in the past. Secondly, I just want to say, Comrade Signey, that, that question about factionalism. Now, I'd like to state it very clearly. Those veterans you saw in this room cannot be factional. Actually, it's impossible for them to be factional. It's a collective of wisdom of many years of people who are concerned about this organization, who have paid a price. Whenever I visit them and see them, Comrade Shiba couldn't come here. You know, the second command of Umkhonto, he was there in the early 60s because he wasn't well. And when you meet them, they express deep concern about what's happening in the country. Now, you can't say that's factional. It's the concerns of the people of South Africa. What we express in that document is the concerns of the people of South Africa. The call for the trajectory to change, it's not to change to a particular faction, it's to change to what it should be. And you must measure us in terms of what we are focusing on and are dealing with. The ultimate outcome, it's a movement that will serve the interests of the people, and that the leaders who get elected are not elected to pursue the interests of those factions which elect them, but they will be elected by members who have interest in the future of this country, especially about the poor. And the movement should be pro-poor in its perspective, not pro-individual enrichment. It can be. So that's the measurement. And this is not about leadership. It's about fix the organization to create a climate where the organization can elect leaders who should be the leaders. And of course, O.R. Tambo is always a reference. I'm pleased that he's been used this year, and we celebrate his life And for me, you'll know from my personal document, not from the veterans, or my own document, that I refer to OR Tambo as a reference point. If you want to measure what this movement should be about, go back to OR Tambo, and you'll see what it is about.
Do you want to tell us, since we asked the question around April?
Oh, yeah, the April and, yeah, Chief, we made a proposal that we have a national consultative conference at the working committee. You know that the ANC had made a decision against that before we met them. So they changed their view based on our submission to then say, yeah, we agree, we should have it. Then they took it to the executive committee. We had to take the matter ourselves to the veterans. So they went to the executive committee, and then they made a decision about the back-to-back. Unfortunately, we had not had a conversation about that structure. And so we then went to them as part of the process of interaction to raise the concerns that our position is more about having the NCC earlier, as early as you can have it, because it must influence the processes, including those leading to the policy conference. After they had expressed their views, we went back, the task team, to the veterans, and the veterans have got a particular view, and this is part of what is going to be discussed on Monday. And so it's part of a discussion. I don't think we should make it as a fixed position that is not subject to discussions.
Okay. Any more questions?
Sorry. Tula, I think you had another question. Tula says,
it was about the political will.
On political will.
I was asking about, when you hear a statement of January 8th of the ANC saying, you, the veterans and stalwarts of the movement, are a repository of years of knowledge and wisdom, yet the president, when he is speaking elsewhere, says you trying to act like you're above the structures of the ANC.
Well, I think we're very clear of the fact that we're operating in a political realm. And every time people make statements, they will be subject to some interpretation. But in this particular instance, political will comes either automatically or it gets infused into you, as it happened with our engagements with the ANC to the point where they agreed to the notion of a national consultative conference. My presumption is that once they've come to that point, it establishes a will on their part to be part of that process. We will have ongoing debates about not so much matters of principle, but process issues and timing and so on, and the modalities of how to bring that about. And that process is still ongoing. So, and of course, I think because of the very nature of contestation of ideas, people have views from one spectrum to the other. But I think the carrying view, which is more the preponderant view, is to work towards the National Consultative Conference.
Okay. You had a hand up, right? Let's just move this. All right. Why don't you? And 2, 3. Who's 4? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
Good afternoon, Alvin St. Pierre from SABC TV News. Considering the divisiveness of an elective conference of the ANC, can pick whichever year, there's always debate in the ANC when it comes to electing who would lead the party. Has the veterans ever considered approaching former presidents Kgalema Motlanthe as well as Thabo Mbeki to get their insights into what went wrong during their term or when they were running to become presidents of the ANC? and how it could be fixed, how the ANC could go into a go into an electoral conference united and not divided. And the final question is, Reverend Frenchikan, you mentioned something along the lines of the constitution, issues around the constitution of the ANC, I presume, and probably issues around the constitution of the country, because you speak about how people are elected in government as well. Is it the veterans' view that the president has too much power, as previously raised by the former Deputy Chief Justice, Dikgang Moseneke?
Thank you. Saw your hand and then yours at the back, right? So can I?
Okay, thank you. Nomo Sapula from ANN7. I just wanted to find out, during this consultative process that you are having with the ANC, do you think that it's possible for the ANC to self-correct if figures with previous credentials are given a chance to take charge of the party?
If what?
Sorry, just repeat that second part of the question. Self-correct, right? And then?
If dubious
with dubious credentials are given an opportunity to take charge of the party.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, it's interesting that you
Can I
say...
take one more question? Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
give it.
I heard you speak about the January 8th statement and how you're happy that some of the issues that you've raised and have been concerned about the found expression in the address. I want to find out that even though that's happening in the backdrop, you have leaders who are defiant against the organization. I'm thinking about the women's league with regards to this because now they're using an issue. You have leaders pretty much throwing down the gauntlet with their political will and divisiveness in the ANC. What are the veterans' thoughts about that? Because that is the realm that you are operating within, that you're trying to change, that there is also this that's happening. And then with the issue of distance, last time we were here, you spoke about how you desperately want to have a distance between the consultative conference and the policy conference. I might have missed this. I just wanted to get an update on how talks around that were going. Thank you.
Okay.
One last one.
I also wanted to get some clarity on, I remember in the last press conference you indicated that you wanted civil rights organizations to be part of the consultative conference of the ANC. I want to know if that's still your position. Thanks.
Okay. So, Sydney, you're going to start.
Okay. Well, the question about whether the ANC is capable of correcting itself if it also elects leaders of dubious character. That will obviously not augur well for the objective of correcting itself. So we are hoping that in the process of these deliberations and introspection, people will then be able to say what kind, it's not just leadership, but what kind of cadre do we want to have in the ANC. You will remember that in 2002, at the National General Council of the ANC, there is a position that was taken in that regard. Unfortunately, that is one of the things which we think have not been given the attention post the National General Council, which they deserve. Now, you come back to this question about, for instance, the Women's League expressing a preference. We see in some newspapers, what do you call it now, reference to lists. We don't know whether those lists are generated by people who actually exist, or sometimes, by the way, it may happen, if you understand the political scene in which we are operating, it may happen that some of these lists may be generated by people who want to see a persistence in fighting and things like that. I'm not saying that is the case, but until someone owns up and says, this is my list, it's not possible for us to just say all these things are being generated from within. But I think what is important is to understand that in as much as you will continue to have errant individuals of whatever status, at least the countervailing tendency, it's showing that there are more people in the organization who take a dim view of anything that gets said or done which does not help the process of correcting what is wrong in the ANC. So I'm saying you may not necessarily see an instant end to some of this errant behavior, but the fact that the overwhelming tendency is one which favors correct political conduct, which is ethical and moral, that we find gratifying on our part.
Thank you. Do you want to deal with the question whether we have consulted with former presidents as well as the constitutional issue of too much power in the hands of the president according to the Constitution?
Yeah, whilst we are doing your job, he's briefing me. It's useful time to. No, in the last press conference we had, we did deal with this issue about former presidents. I think those who were here will remember that. They are also veterans in their own rights. We interact with all veterans, but they play a particular special role, and they've got a specific role and position within the organization, and they've got channels through which they interact with the organization. So it's not up to us to determine what they do. I think they've got the right to do whatever they are doing. On the issue of constitutional matters, I realized I missed it because it was asked earlier. One must emphasize again that we are here not because of the party necessarily, but because of the people. I think that's important. It's how what happens in the party affects the nation, because that party should be about the people. And so there are ideas which are developing amongst the veterans, because we are doing hard thinking. We are not able to share with you all the work, where we have task forces, committees that are dealing with various issues, that affect the organization, the state of the organization's tactics and strategy, the issues of the economy, which younger people are raising quite strongly. When we listen to them, even if we had not focused on that at the beginning, but they are raising it. And then the issue of the Constitution. Some people are saying we are where we are because of the manner in which the party constitution is structured and the manner in which the electoral processes are defined. And there are drafts already of documents people are raising for discussions within the forum, and after that, that will be taken into the NCC and also through the policy processes leading to June. So it wouldn't be fair to say so-and-so has said this about the Constitution, the other person, because it's a debate. The issue of the Constitution has never arisen in the manner it has arisen here. In the past, there was always resistance on any constitutional change, especially the electoral law. But now people are looking even at the electoral law. They are looking at the way in which the ANC elects leaders. The critical issue, it's not about who becomes the leader, but it's the quality of the leadership, the orientation of the leadership, the fact that leaders should be about the people. And I think that's really what we're looking at in terms of where we end up in the future.
Okay.
Sorry, it's
the others must, so you must invoice them.
No. Mine is not a big issue, but I think it's a statement that cannot stand, which was made by Simpiwe, that the election process of the ANC for leaders has always been divisive. That's not correct. I just wanted to say that because it's not been always the case. So you need to be careful about, a generalization like that. I just wanted to, so that doesn't stand. I am just correcting that because it was put forward as a statement. So, no, that's not the case.
Well, if you think that all the mics are near you, do you want to take that question around the involvement of civil society?
Yeah. I think, where we stand here is that there's more than us here as a group of veterans who have an interest in the correction that has to take place in the ANC. Because the impact of the dysfunctionalities goes far beyond just the leadership or even membership. The ANC, we know, historically, has always taken an interest in these sectors of society, at least in keeping them on side in terms of the program and where things need to go, or at least, or even giving a genuine ear to the issues they raise with a view to addressing them effectively and efficiently. Now, that's been part of the ethos that we've known, and we think that given the things that we hear generally, there's a very strong sense that people express of alienation. And I think we believe that that's quite important for us to actually have a way of addressing. Now, as to where those organizations sit in relation to the National Consultative Conference, as we said earlier, we are in the process of engaging with the top six on the modalities leading up to the NCC that would entail, amongst others, the constituent elements that would form the essence of that consultative conference. But it would not be beyond me to imagine that either, at least in terms of leading up to that, and even post that, there will be a focus on ensuring that those sectors are actually kept abreast. Now, as to whether they can come into the consultative conference, historically we've known that various sectors do get invited to various important ANC conferences. Now, as to the extent and the role, if they are invited, that they will play into that in that conference, that's something that will be discussed earlier on, because we don't want people to come to a conference and just to be, posters and just to make the conference look pretty. It's got to be with a view to genuine engagement and solicitation of inputs. But to the extent that it will be an internal ANC process, it's clearly going to be focused more on, in fact, ANC structures.
Maybe just to add that, you have covered press conferences of allies of the ANC, the SACP, COSATU. You know they've got views on these matters. They are amongst the organizations we will be consulting so that whatever views they have can also feed into the consultation processes within the ANC.
Okay.
Just a clarity very quickly. I don't recall hearing you respond to Ranjani's question about what it is exactly that you're saying should be fixed in how the ANC elects leadership. And I would suggest that the January 8th statement is sort of hinted that the power has been taken away from the branches. Is that what you're talking about? What do you have in mind that needs to change?
Ranjani didn't think that her question was not answered. Because Ranjani understood that what was raised is the principle that the membership of the ANC must, in the substance, have the final say on who should lead the organization. But the starting point is discussion, as we were saying, of the principles, the values that these people must be seen to be an embodiment of. But then it was said it's critically important that we also look at the actual electoral system internal to the ANC, but you can't limit it to considerations of the operations of the ANC and how it is led, because the electoral system of the ANC does also say something about how the ANC is going to contest elections and how some people who are elected in the ANC will participate in the national elections for the country. For instance, the person who's president of the ANC becomes the candidate for the ANC in the national elections. So there's no way in which, when you are looking at all these issues, you can begin to reimagine your electoral system. Is it one that makes the organization prone to behavior that is unbecoming? Is it one that guarantees and ensures that our public representatives are accountable to the organization, whilst they are first and foremost accountable to the country? It's these questions that need not just to continue to be spoken about, but we need to look at whether we have systemic constructions that make it difficult for us to remain true to our principles about good governance, responsiveness to society, besides just being responsive to the ANC.
I think an important point maybe to make here is that it is important not to think of this, the National Consultative Conference, as being the end point. You know, whilst it is as an outcome in the short term, it's a very important outcome for us, at least having arrived at a point where a collective of ANC people would come together and really engage with every issue relating to what's got the ANC to this point. That, to us, is first position, okay, in the short term. In the medium term, that process is related to the 2019 elections. It is important that we take an ANC to the people that would have been seen to address the issues that people have been raising, the issues for which people actually voted the way they did in the local government election, but most importantly in the long term, to ensure that the ANC conference in 2017 is able to deliver to the ANC and its broad membership, primarily a leadership that will be able to take the ANC post-2017 into a different trajectory to the one which we have. And I think that our measure of success will be on the basis of those three key elements in the short, medium, and long term. Thank you.
Delinking.
I'd asked about
Delinking.
what are the difference between a policy conference and a consultative conference?
We're having follow-up conversations on Monday. This is one of the items that is on the agenda. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. No, I just...
May 2017 be productive for all of you.
Yes, absolutely.
I know the politics will make it so.
Yeah, so it's going to be an exciting...
You're watching SABC News now. These are live visuals from the ANC Veterans Media Briefing that's just wrapping up in Parktown, Johannesburg, the tail end here, where veterans have just finished taking questions or fielding questions from the media contingent. Now they are, of course, reacting to the January 8th statement delivered by President Jacob Zuma at the party's 105th anniversary celebrations this past weekend in Orlando, Soweto. Now, bringing with them today a wealth of experience, a great sense of reassurance, direction. They offer guidance as they speak to a need now for a sense of urgency to address the challenges faced by the party, and they really want to be agents of change and introspection in South Africa. While you're seeing here stalwart, the Reverend Frank Shikana this afternoon, he's been saying for a long time now that the soul of the ruling party is under attack, not from external forces solely, but also from its very own members. He has said this in the past, and he reiterated these concerns today of the people of South Africa, and says that if this loss...
Yeah, cool.
And of correcting that assertion.
Yeah, it was very important.
That's what they are.
Are you able to attend this policy conference throughout the 13th?
What's the date today?
Today's the 10th.
Day after tomorrow. This thing was